C. Douglas Marker, 2911 Majestic Circle, Lansing, Michigan, 48912, phone 517-482-2570. Tape 1, Side A, October 28, 1988. Tape 1, Side B, and Tape 2, Side A, October 12, 1988. With Helen Earley of the Oldsmobile History Center, Lansing, Michigan. Whatever you want to talk about, when you first came to Oldsmobile, what year was it? Who did you work for? What did you do? Where were you located?
Well, I came to work for Oldsmobile in 1960. 1960, 61, 62, no.
41.
41, 31,
31.
21, 25.
1925.
1925.
And what were you doing, Doug?
Well, you don't have to be quite so inquisitive. You know, there was no business going on at that time. And the old, what you call him, says, come on down and work for me down here in Oldsmobile. And I said, well, all right. I said, I got to give my other guy 10-day notice.
Where were you working?
Well, I was working for, on Michigan, or Washington, no, not, what's the street that runs next to, runs down by the banks down there, and
Michigan Avenue?
Michigan, north of,
runs east and west, does it?
North and south.
North and south?
Yeah.
Capitol Avenue?
Yeah, Capitol Avenue. And, I was, see, I used to work for what was his name? Oh, God. And, so
Well, when you came into the Olds, you started to work for Doc Shaw,
I worked for Doc Shaw.
and he was
And he didn't have a job no more than a man on the moon. But
what was he then when you worked for him? What was his title?
he was Doc Shaw. He was advertising manager of Oldsmobile.
Okay.
And he was a hell of a good guy. And he gave me a job. And he didn't have a job to give me because, why don't you shut that light off, Mama? I can't operate with that light on.
I won't need a light at all.
No.
Thank you.
There, that's better. And he, Doc, yeah, you can leave that light on.
Won't need it a bit, Doc.
He was quite a guy. And, see, back in those days, Oldsmobile would take, and they had an advertising department there, and that's where I worked in. And Doc Shaw put me in the advertising department, and I worked in the advertising department, and in 2 days or 5 days or 6 days, all the work would be done, and then there wouldn't be any more work for maybe a month. But that didn't matter.
Now, what were you doing in the advertising department then?
Well, now don't ask me too much because I was just general cleanup guy. I was so glad to be working that I just couldn't hold myself. I just loved it that I was working there and everything was all right. I was getting along just fine. We oh God, we got a lot of guys that worked down there at Oldsmobile.
Do you remember some of the names?
Oh, I suppose I could if I would.
Well, if you can't, it won't matter. What kind of work did you do? You scheduled advertising, or?
No, I didn't have anything to do with the advertising. All I did was if they wanted to take a bunch of papers from downtown down to Detroit, well, I'd do that. That's what I would do.
That's when you were first hired in.
I was a jockey. I was just a jockey. I just take it all as junk and take it wherever they wanted to.
You did kind of whatever.
If Doc Shaw wanted, Doc Shaw, of course, was quite a guy downtown, and he'd take me. He says, "Come on, Doug, let's go somewhere." And he couldn't drive a car very good, so I'd be his boss. I'd just go along with it.
How long did that last before you really got into the advertising department? 2, 3 weeks? A couple months?
You know, this is 50 years ago.
I know
that you're talking about. You think I could just pick up 50 years and tell you what?
No, you don't have to. If you can't remember it.
That's a long time ago.
I know it. 2, 3 months maybe before you came into the advertising department to work on the insertions.
I have no idea.
Well, when you did get in the advertising department, what did you do?
Well, I was in the advertising department all the time.
Yeah, but I mean, when you really got in building 60, were you in first when you were hired in?
Oh no, we were in
the old administration building.
We were in the old building over there in the shop.
Okay.
We didn't work in a new building. Hell, it was in the shop.
You didn't come into the new building then until about 1930, 31?
32 or 33.
Mm-hmm.
Oh hell, yeah, that was. See, we didn't. Keep in mind that the old building that we were in was just a bunch of old shop buildings. Just shop buildings. That's all they were. See. Hell, you wouldn't ask your guy to go and set his advertising department up in there.
No. You moved over to building 60 then about 32 or 33.
Well, now, wait a minute. Let me get my brain straight here. So when I did this, I don't remember just exactly when this happened. I went in there in 26. And 26 and 27 and 28, and I worked in the advertising department. And then the next thing we did was we moved into they had some buildings and they moved in. This is 60 years ago, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
My brain isn't that quick to
You're doing fine.
just to pick it out and say, here's part of it. So, anyway, do you remember some old people who worked down there at all?
Yes, I remember Gordon Eldridge.
Oh, no, he's new.
Oh, he's new. Oh, I'm Charlie Blades.
Oh, yeah. You remember Charlie Blades?
Homer Austin.
Yeah. Oh, God. Old people.
Art Atkinson.
So, see, this is maybe the wrong day to go and rattle my brains to get the.
We're just going to do this quarter, Doug, and then I'm not going to bother you because I don't want to do that. It's my error, and I appreciate your allowing me to come back again and try to recoup it. You certainly have enough on the balance of the tape that it would be very productive, and we'll keep it that way.
See, after the Depression, see, I went and worked out in the shop for a while.
Now that'd be in probably 31?
31 or 32.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I worked out in the shop for 8 months.
What were you doing out there?
Making front ends, making steel front ends for the Oldsmobiles, and hell, we were making front ends by hand.
How did you do it by hand?
On a machine.
You mean
I
you're
pulled the lever and.
forming the sheet metal?
Oh, sure.
Oh yes.
Ah.
And then putting it together.
And then we had. Oh God, that's funny. I had 2 or 3 foremen and superintendents and everything else working with me.
Do you remember the names of any of those people?
Oh yeah, I suppose I could somewhere or another. You look up the records down there and you'll see their names all right. They were. Oh God, that's a long time ago.
Did you work all day, or just part of the day, like 4 hours or 6 hours, or?
Well, you mean in the sheet metal?
Yes.
Hell, we worked 16 hours.
16 straight hours.
Sure. They drove us to death out there in the shop.
Did you get paid for overtime?
Oh yeah, you got let's see, what was it? 50 cents. We got 50 cents an hour, and then we got half an hour. We got overtime. Half of that was 25 cents. So we did 75 cents for some of the overtime.
For some of it.
Yeah.
Gee.
Oh, we got paid terribly. We were just loaded. I'd have 75 cents when I could go to the store after I got through working down there one day.
You could get quite a bit for 75 cents, so couldn't you?
But I could get, I could get a couple of beers and stuff like that. I often thought it's a good thing I didn't drink during those days, because crazy. I just spent all my money. I just spent all my money on drinks. I've been buying beer all the time. I wouldn't have been buying anything else. Oh, God, what
So about 8 months you worked in the sheet metal.
Oh, yeah. And all these guys that I worked with they all became part of the bosses of the Oldsmobile.
Oh, they moved up the ladder.
Oh, they all moved up the ladder. Sure, we all moved up the ladder, hell. And,
When you moved into the advertising department per se.
I moved back into the advertising department per se, and then I left.
And what did you do at first when you came into the advertising department?
Just keep track of everything that we had. No, I don't know what the heck I did. I can't tell you exactly what I did.
I know you scheduled ads.
I scheduled ads.
The magazine.
I shipped all of the literature.
Oh, like catalogs?
Catalogs, literature. I shipped all of that. We shipped all over the country.
Would that be to dealers?
To dealers. We'd get. Of course, they used to do it a different. They used to do it a funny way. They ship all the literature into Oldsmobile and the Lansing, and then we would ship the literature all out to the dealers. See, we'd wrap up 50, 100, 200, 500, 1,000 catalogs, and we'd send those to Zoot in Chicago, and that's his catalog.
I see. Well, Doug, who made the catalogs up? Did you have any part in the copy or the photographs that were in the catalogs?
No.
Was that all done by the agency?
The agency did.
The agency did all that.
The agency did all that. See, the catalogs were all drawn, and then they made plates and so forth, and I made sure that the catalogs were or the plates were delivered to. We used to have a big outfit in Chicago that would print the catalogs, and there was also a big outfit in Cincinnati that printed the catalogs, and these were what's his name in Chicago? Oh God.
D.P. Brother?
Oh no, this is the printer.
The printer.
Yeah.
Oh,
the biggest one in the world.
Fred Wild?
No, the biggest one in the world. Hell.
McGraw-Hill?
No.
Prentice?
Huh?
Prentice?
No.
Chilton?
No. Oh God, what was her name? Biggest catalog printer in the world. Around downtown Chicago. Oh.
Well, maybe it will come to you.
Yeah.
They printed the catalogs and then they were shipped to Lansing. Now, did they do the actual photographing of automobiles, or did they just
No.
the drawings like you mentioned?
No, the photographs were done. Whoever the Oldsmobile would have to do the photographs, they would do the photographs of the cars.
And the commercial photographer would send those to the agency to put the catalog together for printing?
Yeah.
And the agency was D.P. Brother?
At that time, the agency was D.P. Brother. That's right.
Was that Donnelly printing?
Donnelly.
Good for you.
I never paid any attention to it, but I sort of...
Donnelly was the printer.
Good.
Donnelly. Biggest printer in the world.
So then you would make the distribution to the dealers from the advertising department of the new product catalogs.
Yeah.
Then what about the ads that the dealer wanted to run? How was that handled? Did he make his decision himself that he wanted to have an ad in, say, Saturday Evening Post or his local newspaper?
He had nothing to do with an ad in Saturday Evening Post.
What about his local newspaper? Did he make that decision, or was that all made at the agency?
Well,
or at the
it
factory?
depends on whether you're talking about a national ad or whether you're talking about a local ad.
I see. Well, say a
Now,
local ad.
Now, if you're talking about a local ad, and that's the dealer, and he could put any darn thing he wanted in there.
I see.
If he wanted to say that the General Motors was a damn fool, why, he could put a damn fool in there if he wanted to. And some of them did.
Yes.
Some of them were so mad at the factory that they could call him anything.
Why were they angry with the factory?
Why? Well, because they wouldn't give them cars when they wanted cars.
I see. Because the factory wasn't building enough cars?
Yeah. They'd say, well, I want 50 cars. The factory would say, well, we ain't got 50, we only got 40. Oh, yeah. You're going to cheat me. Well, cheat you or whatever you want, that's all you're going to get. See, everything wasn't just all lovey-dovey all the time.
No.
So,
But how did the factory make the decision of who got how many cars? By the size of the city that the dealer was located in, or
yeah.
primarily?
Yeah.
I see.
Like Chicago would be entitled to so many cars. You'd have so many dealers. So you divide the dealers up into the number of cars you're going to get, and then that's the number of cars you get. Say a guy on Michigan Avenue there, what was his name? Oh my God, he was a big dealer. He'd get 1,000 cars. 1,000 cars a year. That's a lot of cars.
Mm-hmm.
You got to sell a lot of cars in order to sell 1,000 cars a year. That's 3 or 4 cars a day that you've got to move out of your place of business. That's what that really means. They don't realize that. They say, well, there's a 1,000-car dealer. Well, that's fine. Except you try and sell and push out 1,000 cars out of your dealership and collect the money and service the cars and everything else. That's a big job.
Sure is.
Now, if you only got a 50-car dealer, then you get one car a month or 1 car a week to send out. Well, that's a different deal entirely.
Sure.
We used to have a dealer in Chicago. What was his name? Miller. Was it Miller? And that son of a gun would take. He'd want 50 cars at a time. 50 cars. 50, 100 cars at a time.
Well, how many salesmen would he have?
Oh, he'd have all kinds of things.
Must have to handle that many.
Oh, sure. Of course, you don't sell them all in one day.
No. Well, now, Doug, part of the money, how did the dealer pay for his ads? Was part of it subsidized through the factory, or did the dealer pay into
Well,
it?
it's all paid. It's all paid through GMAC.
Well, what I mean is, if a dealer sold 500 cars, wasn't a certain percentage of that money put into an advertising account off that number of cars?
Oh, well, yeah. Every car that went out of the factory out there had an advertising charge on it
I see.
25 or $24. $24 a car.
Was it the same charge on a 98 as it was the Series 60?
Normally it used to be, but then it got all screwed up because the prices got. First place, Oldsmobile or Cadillac was here and Buick was here and Oldsmobile was here, And Pontiac was here, and then what's it called? Was down below, and you knew wherever everybody was. Chevrolet. You knew wherever everybody was. But then they started loving each other. And let me take some of your cars, and I'll give some of my cars to Cadillac, and I'll take some of mine, and I'll give them to Pontiac, and so forth. See, and hell, you didn't know who was selling what.
When did that happen? After the war?
That happened after the war.
I see.
It used to be all nice and pretty, and all set up. And Oldsmobile would have so many cars to sell in this block right in here, and Pontiac would have so many cars to sell in this block in here, and Chevrolet would have so many cars to sell in this block. Cadillac would have so many cars to sell up there. And you didn't sell where Cadillac sold. You didn't sell where Pontiac sold. You sold where you're supposed to sell.
I see. Well, did we have as many dual dealers then as we do now?
Oh yeah, we always had dual dealers.
But who would they be dual with?
Chevrolet.
Mostly Chevrolet, more
We
than?
do a lot with Chevrolet.
Like Olds and Chevrolet.
Olds and Chevrolet
Would dual.
would be. You see, if you were selling a Chevrolet here, now that Chevrolet was a certain size car, and it cost so much, and it had so many pieces of cloth on it. And then up above that would be a Cadillac, or a Buick, and that would have certain pieces of cloth on it, and with a certain size, and it would have a certain length to it. And then up above that would be the Cadillac, and that would have a certain size. See?
A little better grade of upholstery and
A better grade of this and a better grade of that,
more options.
and a better grade of that, and so forth. See?
Mhm. Well, would Cadillac and Olds be dual in some instances?
Oh yeah, Cadillac and Olds were doing a whole lot.
But not, it was rare if Olds and Pontiac or Olds and Buick were dual, you're saying.
Olds and Buick were not doing very much,
Mhm.
and Cadillac was dual a lot with Olds.
I see.
They were all Cadillac Olds duals.
More than Olds.
Because then the guy had a big car to sell, and he had a smaller car to sell, and he had a big wide range then. See?
Sure. Oh,
Well, they're pretty smart, these guys.
yes. Well, Doug, now these new car announcements, when did we first start these huge extravaganzas like real Broadway shows? Was that in the, well, it was certainly after the war.
Those started, those started in the 70s.
In the 70s.
Yeah, or in the 60s and the 70s.
Latter part of
When
the 60s. Wolfram was...
Wolfram was down there, and he was a great ass, that guy. So he put on a lot of those extravaganzas, because he liked the high monkey lunch stuff. That was what Wolfram loved. And he'd go up to California, and he'd get a bunch of gals and fellas, and they'd put on parties and so forth. That was just style. He was the Greek style, and he had to do everything the big way. So Wolfram was not one of my favorite guys. I don't think he knew what the hell he was doing. He just did. He died. He went out to California and kicked a bucket. He had Somebody told me he had 6 people at his, you know, I don't know for sure. That's what I heard,
Oh, my land.
that he had 6 people. I mean, other than his
Immediate family.
immediate family or something, 6 people.
He was hard to work for.
He was real tough. I don't know what was the matter with him, but he was a tough ass.
Well, Doug, then after Wolfram came, you were there when Mr. Skinner
Oh,
was there.
I was there when all these guys
Yeah,
were.
what kind of a man was Mr. Skinner?
Skinner was a very fine gentleman. You might not like what he tells you sometimes. You might say, get your ass out of here, get out and get to work and get that job done and get it done by tomorrow morning. Or I'll come out and I'll fire you. Now that may be Skinner. But you knew what Skinner meant. You better get out there, you better get to work, and you better get that job done.
You knew where you stood with it.
Or you're going to get fired. See? You knew where you stood with the guy. And if you didn't get out and get to work, it was your own fault.
Do you remember anyone that he fired? Any instance where he fired a person directly?
God, I don't know. I know a couple of other guys who got fired, but I don't know.
Well, it doesn't matter.
Uh,
Well, Doug, was Wayman's to get back to the dealer council, do they have a dealer council?
We had a dealer council, and the dealer council would meet like once or twice a year.
How was that dealer council elected or appointed? How did the dealers get on the council?
Just suction. Have to do a little suction to get on the council.
How many dealers would there be? A larger group?
What was it? 12 on the council?
So actually,
12 or 14 or something like that.
was that a representative sampling of the dealers? Did the
Yeah, we take a big dealer in New York, and you take a little dealer in like say, this is a zone out here. This is the Detroit zone. Well, you might pick up a guy. He might be a dealer down in down at any town, see, and he would be appointed a dealer on the dealer
but
council.
by other dealers or by the factory?
Oh, by the factory.
By the factory. So actually, the dealer that was there as a representative of a so-called certain geographic area didn't necessarily share the same views that the other dealers in that area.
Not necessarily, no.
I see, because he was a factory appointment, not a dealer appointment.
Well, you hold my hand, and I'll hold your hand. Business.
I see. So who would conduct those meetings? Now, would the general manager be
General
in
manager.
on those?
General manager.
Was Mr. Wolfram then general manager?
Yeah.
And that's
Actually, that would be the sales manager's job. See? But Mr. Wolfram would know all about it, who's going to be there and so forth. See? Then they would have a meeting at the country club, and everybody invites their brothers and their sisters and so forth, and all go to the country club and have a big deal, big meeting, oh man, nice food to eat would be just wonderful and everything. And everything is lovey-dovey.
so really, what did those dealer councils accomplish?
Goodwill.
Goodwill.
Oh, yeah.
Did the factory ever seriously try to resolve a problem if a dealer had one?
Oh, yeah, they do that all the time. That's what you're.
That's what I thought the purpose was, but,
But it's not done through that deal. It's done through
through the zone?
through the zones,
The
yeah.
district managers?
District managers.
Reporting up, I see,
Yeah, district managers would do that.
on the dealer problems.
They'd come into Lansing and say, I got a dealer down here at Jackson, and the darn fool is just acting like a darn fool, and I want to get rid of him because he isn't going to do Oldsmobile any good at all. So then we'd have to get approval then to get rid of that guy down at Jackson. See?
Now, how would you, what were the steps of approval to do something like that?
Oh God, that would take a lot of stuff. That everybody would have to be in on the deal to get rid of somebody like that you want to get rid of, because dealers, for instance, don't do a job. Dealers are not. They haven't got the right building. They won't buy the right building. A dealer won't buy the right tools to put out in his shop. See, you got all these kind of things. These are all in the contracts. You see, that when a dealer becomes a dealer, he does certain things. He buys certain tools. He knows what he's got to do. He buys all the programs that the factory puts out. If we're gonna have Susie bells on all of our cars that we're going to sell in the month of October, he's got to do that and so forth.
He's got to buy 100 Susie bells to cover his cars.
He's got to buy 100 of those.
I see.
Put them on. It sounds funny, don't it?
Mm-hmm.
I'd look at something and I'd say, you mean to say that a dealer has got to put that on his car? Well, sure, that looks good, doesn't it? I said, it looks like hell, but that's all right. If that's going to sell a car, that's good. We'll put 2 of them on that car.
How many dealers did we have when you were in the advertising business?
3,500.
That was really the top,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
Yeah. See, when I first went there, back in the 30s, there was a time when we could sign anybody up in a town. We could go into Bullhaven, North Dakota, and there'd be a dealer there that would sell farm equipment. So we'd shove a contract in front of him and have him sign it, and we'd sell him 1 car, and he'd be the dealer in that town. And we had 100 of those dealers, and they weren't worth nothing. I told a boss one time that, oh God, I got 4 parts of my butt all chewed out. What good's a dealer that sells 1 car a year for you?
True.
He ain't no good.
Well, Doug, when did the program start where they were more dual dealers and they began to look for what they called an ideal location?
Oh, well, that's a different kind of a program entirely. That's done by the corporation.
I see.
And they have people down there that spend their time. For instance, they take down on the highway to Detroit. That is going to be all automobile stuff, all everything, all expensive stuff that's going to be sold on that highway. And that's the way it's going to be. Now, if you got 10 dealers, and you take those dealers and you put them around in various places like in Detroit, in the city, and you put them around where you want them, and then you have to guide those dealers to sell your cars And you know darn right and well that if you go down to East Detroit and you walk through East Detroit and see all the junk that's down in there, you don't need a dealer in there because you ain't going to sell a $10,000 car where nobody's got any money. Now, you go out to North Detroit or West Detroit or East Detroit or there you sell your cars. So instead of having one dealer out there, you'll have one dealer here in this town, and the next town you'll have another dealer, and the next town you'll have another dealer. There's a lot of malarkey involved in this kind of stuff.
Well, dealers weren't supposed to sell out of their territory, were they?
I don't think that meant anything.
I just wondered how strict that was.
No, that didn't mean anything. You mean to say that Carl Story can't go down to Detroit and sell a car?
But yes, that's what I was saying.
Yeah.
But he can. Or a person who lives in Detroit could come here, except that's inconvenient for him to get service. He certainly would have the privilege of going to a Detroit dealer for service.
Sure.
But there wouldn't be any reason why somebody living in Detroit couldn't come to Lansing.
He can come up here anytime and buy a car. There's all kinds of, that's worked all the time. Somebody says, I'm going to buy a car. And they said, well, why don't you go up to Ionia?
Now, Orson Cole used to be a
And
big
Orson Cole used to be up there,
dealer.
and he'll sell you a car for $2. Might be $2 every week, but Orson Cole used to be, hell, he'd come down, he'd be in Lansing as much as he was in Ionia, selling cars.
I know it. Somebody once told me, and maybe you can set me straight on this, that for every car that was sold, no matter where it was sold, whether it was sold in Podunk or New York or Lansing, Carl Story got a certain percentage off a rebate on it. But I couldn't believe that.
No.
How could that be?
Uh-uh.
Well, I didn't believe it either, Doug. You're kind of answering my
That's one I
question.
really can't believe.
Why would one dealer, just because he's in the hometown of the factory that builds the cars, get a
Now,
rebate?
Carl Story, if he found out that a guy down in Jackson was going to buy an Oldsmobile, and the dealer down in Jackson was hot on this guy's tail and was going to sell this guy a car, but Carl Story found out about it, he'd go down to Jackson and he'd pick up that guy and he'd sell that guy a car for $5 less than what the other guy was going to sell him, and he'd pick up the deal. Now, Carl Story didn't mind cutting anybody's throat. That didn't bother him one bit. If he was going to sell a car, Carl Story was going to sell that car, he was going to make a profit off that car. Carl Story would sell it. And he didn't care whether it was Jackson, Detroit, New York, Chicago, anywhere. It didn't make any difference to Carl Story, as long as he got the money.
Well, Doug, let me ask you, after the war, then the people who were here in Lansing on loan from the agency went back to Detroit. And then Gordon Eldridge was one. Was Carl Havens, did he leave then? Did he go back to Detroit then, to the agency?
No,
I thought he stayed here.
no. Carl Havens, that's entirely a different story.
Tell it.
Huh?
Tell it. I never knew Mr. Havens that well. I know the name. Well, isn't he the Carl Havens that was the plant manager at Kansas City
No.
when they were building shells?
No.
Oh no, that was Ken Plaster.
Ken Plaster.
That's right. That's right. Well, tell me about Mr. Havens.
Oh, I don't want to talk about that.
Okay, we don't have to talk about him. We can move right along.
He's a different guy entirely. I worked for, I think it was, 24 different people
Really? And the years you were in advertising?
Yeah.
When did you retire, Doug?
I retired in, 15 years ago.
That would be, let's see, subtracting back here, 1975?
Yeah,
72? 73? About 73. Were you there for Oldsmobile's 75th anniversary in 1972?
Yeah. No.
Then you retired before that.
Yeah, 1970.
1970.
1970.
Time goes so fast that
Yeah.
it's 1970, and you came in 1926.
6.
So you were there 26 or 30, 56.
42 years.
42 years.
42 years.
That's a long time.
And then in the meantime, I put 3 years in the Army over in Europe.
That's right. Because I think when I first came into advertising, you had just returned.
What day did you come?
Well, I hired into the Olds on July 8th, 1942. But you weren't there then. But I was hired in another department, the machine procurement department.
Yeah.
Then transferred around. But I think I remember you just coming back from a service when I got into advertising. Now, at that time...
I had a heck of a time getting back because, what the hell was it? I got into a squabble with somebody. Not a squabble really, but I didn't want to go back to work right the day I come back from the Army, and I wasn't going to go back to Oldsmobile and go to work. I wanted to have a little time for myself because I got married right at that time. And so I one of my good friends down there got a hold of me one day and said, "Doug, you better get back to work." And I said, "Why?" Well, he says, "These darn fools are going to have a strike." And he says, "Anybody that's working, they're on the job. They get paid. And if they don't get on the job, they don't get paid. And they won't get paid until the strike is ended. And the strike may last 6 weeks or 4 weeks or 2 weeks or whatever." And I said, "Oh my God." So I said, "Count me in." Boy, and I just burnt a path right down to Oldsmobile and told them to get me on the payroll. I got all the way up to, what's his name? The boss up in the accounting department.
Niehaus?
No, before him.
John Bell?
No, before him. The nice guy.
You mean Schoen?
Schoen.
Earl Schoen.
Earl Schoen was my friend.
Mm-hmm.
And a real nice guy. He didn't make him any better. He's still living, you know.
I talked with him the other day on the phone.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how old he is. He must be 90.
Yes, he is. He told me that. He's 90.
And he was a real nice guy.
Fine man.
Real fine man. You know, Helen, you find out things when you work for a company as long as I did. You find out who the assholes are and who the good guys are. You find that out. And you can put them in one pile and in another pile. That's the way
Very easily.
It's very easily done. See. I got into a fight with one of the big bosses down there one time. We were on a deal down in Texas. This damn fool went and got drunk. And he really got, oh, God, I never saw such a filthy drunk in my life. He was just awful.
Down there on some assignment?
Oh, sure, he was part of the deal.
Oh, my.
Part of the big shots that were carrying on the deal. And so I knew he was drunk. And, because he didn't attend any of the meetings. Well, of course, if I was his boss and he didn't attend a meeting, I'd find out right away what the hell was the matter. I knew what was the matter. But I didn't tell my boss either. Because I felt that
Who was your boss then?
Carlson,
Oh, Les Carlson.
one of the nicest guys you ever saw in your life. Beautiful guy. Carlson didn't know this. This guy was drunker than, oh, God, he was drunk. We had to leave town on a train and go to Kansas City. And this guy was drunk. I had to go into his room, get clothes on him, get him in a car, and take him, put him over on the train. What a mess. Well, I found out afterwards that, what's his name, the guy was the general manager of all the companies. Oh, God, what was it?
You mean from a corporation?
Corporation, yeah. No. So, he knew something was up, but he didn't know what. I knew. But I found out afterwards that he was pretty close to it. And he was going to kick his ass out of the corporation, see. And he didn't know enough what to do about it because he didn't have enough.
He didn't have all the facts.
He didn't have all the facts, you see, and he couldn't do anything. So, of course, later he got fired. And he really got fired.
People shouldn't do that to themselves. They do sometimes, so.
Oh, hell, this was, he was just awful. Just awful.
We've had a lot of good people there at the factory. You remember G.R. Jones.
Oh, sure,
Yeah.
G.R. Jones. And G.R. Jones drank.
Yes, but he could hold it.
But he knew what to do with it.
Right.
And he didn't make an ass of himself in front of everybody.
A very good general sales manager.
A good guy.
When were you there? Now, Mr. Skinner came in. He was there first, wasn't he? Before Wolfram?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You were there when Mr. Skinner was there.
Oh, sure.
What kind of a general manager was he?
Skinner?
Did he come down in the offices and talk with people? Or
No.
never?
Not especially, no. He was not an introvert, no.
Wolfram didn't either, did he?
Oh, no.
Never.
I remember one of the big shots out in the factory he misjudged Wolfram one day, and he slapped him right across the back. Oh, God, and I saw it. And I said, oh, God, this guy will get canned sure in hell. So, he hit him so hard that he shoved him forward a little bit.
Do you suppose there was a little bit of vindictiveness there?
No,
It was just a
Oh,
playful.
no. The guy misjudged him. He thought he was somebody else.
Oh, I see.
He caught him from back, see.
How did Wolfram handle that?
Oh, God, he just coughed and didn't do anything about it. I thought he was going to can the guy right there and then. I thought, oh, God, this guy will get canned sure in hell. But he didn't. Oh, dear.
Right. Some quick feelings to the surface fast.
Oh, yeah. Oh, dear.
Doug, the last years that you worked there, let's say the last 10 that you worked at Oldsmobile, who were the people that you worked closest with at the agency? Val Karate?
Val Karate.
Was Bob Smith there?
Yeah, Bob Smith. And
What was Val Karate's job?
Val Karate was general contact between the agency and the factory. If I wanted something, I'd call Grotty and I'd say, look, they want a job up here done tomorrow. And then I'd describe the job, what they wanted to do. And I said, get it done for tomorrow, see.
And he'd have it done.
And he'd
He'd
have
see
it
that it
done.
was.
Yeah. Well, Crotty was all right.
There was another
Crotty was one of the finest guys.
very capable.
Very capable.
There's another man too in the agency, and I'm trying to think of his name that you would know. Oh shucks, it's a short name, but just 2 syllables. And he seemed to be more in the New York office.
Well, we didn't have any.
Round face.
We didn't have very many in New York.
No. Well, maybe the name will come to me then, because apparently you may not have had that much experience with him. Well, Doug...
I knew everybody down at the agency. I knew everybody down there.
Do you, well, if there were 20 or 25 people working in D.P. Brothers agency when you came, then of course Leo Burnett later, when you retired, how many people were on the agency roll, would you say?
Oh, you mean hired?
I mean, how many were they employing at that time? Over the period of years,
Oh, it
things
must have been
changed.
75 or 100.
I see. Illustrators, artists, writers.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Must have been 75 or 100, at least.
Frank
Yeah.
Egan.
Egan.
Frank Egan, he was there too. That's the man I was trying to think of. Frank Egan.
Well, he was a big bull guy.
Wasn't he vice president or?
Oh, yeah. Only he didn't, he was not an executive. If you get what I mean.
Yes. Well, had they started to downplay these large extravaganzas when you left, like they used to at the new car announcement, the Broadway
No,
show
they didn't
type thing?
they didn't start to downplay him, but they did right after I left. See, I left in 70.
It was right after that that the situation changed, so that
Yeah.
our Broadway play type thing.
See, there was a change in D.P. Brother. D.P. Brother actually was superseded by
Leo Burnett.
Leo Burnett, see, and that meant a different deal entirely, real different. You don't realize it on the outside. You don't realize it, but if you work with them, you know what it does.
Now, different, how do you mean? Was it better?
Oh, no, not in my way of thinking it wasn't, but it was more sophisticated and more fancy and so forth.
Oh, yes.
But the agency, see how I got along with the agency so well, I could get anything I wanted out of the agency. I'd call them up and ask them to do something for me, and shucks, it would get done right away. And somebody else might call them up, and it might take a week or a month to get it done.
Now, did you have that same rapport with Leo Burnett after they took over?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, now, when you retired then, who were you reporting to?
What's his name? He became... See, right about that time, all of the stuff down here that was done at Oldsmobile was all transferred down to Detroit.
Now, what, you say all the stuff
All the decisions
all went to the agency?
all went through the agency and so forth, and they were the ones that did the stuff.
So all of the decisions on the amount of money to spend and where to spend it
No,
and
that
what to push?
the amount of money stayed here.
I see. But what options to push or what cars to push?
Yeah, if we're,
those decisions were in Detroit then?
yeah, most of them moved down to
I
Detroit.
see. And how to make the push?
And how
The
to make-
agency then took a more aggressive role
Yeah,
than it had before.
that's right.
I see. Well, now, at one time, advertising, sales, promotion, and public relations was all rolled into one
All under Doc Shaw.
under Doc Shaw. When did that begin to separate into individual departments?
Oh, I can't tell you exactly. It just evolved over a period of years, that's all.
And then advertising pretty soon was by itself, and then sales.
Yes.
And that was still headed by Shaw?
Yeah, still had, of course, Shaw got himself in trouble because he went down to New York one time to an automobile show, and of course he got drunk. And you see, all these things happen when you get drunk. So you don't quite remember who you called a son of a bitch and so forth behind his back. See.
But the fellow that you called it remembers it.
But he remembers it. See. See. And you say, well, how did he know I called him a son of a bitch? See. Well, of course, you don't know because you were drunk at the time. But the other guy wasn't. So he remembers it. A lot of fun.
Yes. Well, after Doc Shaw, who came in as advertising manager or director?
Havens.
Carl Havens.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then after Havens, we had I can't think who we had.
Well, see, then I was gone then.
I see. Oh, so Havens was there when you left.
Yeah, Havens was
I
there.
see.
Yeah.
Well, then,
But Havens didn't stay long after I was left.
I see.
He picked up and he resigned, and he went out to the West Coast. Whatever happened to him or what did he do out there, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I have never heard whatever he did.
Well, did they,
Havens was a very brilliant man, very smart man, except that he was conceited.
oh,
And now I liked Havens. I didn't like to work for him, but I liked Havens.
well, Doug, then Les Carlson was there.
Well, Les Carlson, yeah, he was
came
there.
in after Havens?
Yes. He took Havens' place.
I see. So Havens must have been gone before you retired.
Yes, Havens has left before I retired, yeah.
And then Carlson retired before you did?
Yes. Yes.
Who took Carlson's place?
Oh.
Lloyd
Lloyd
Grove?
Grove. And that was one. Where it was. I just didn't have any idea. It just floored me.
What do you mean move so far away?
Just, well, that's not Oldsmobile down there anymore.
Oh, no. No, and a lot of the employees feel that too.
Well, sure.
They had a loyalty to the market.
They had a loyalty that they would never get anywhere else. And they just threw it away. The corporation just threw that away. And I'll tell you who did that. That's Smitty down there at General Motors, the chief guy.
Roger Smith.
Yeah, Roger Smith. See, he's ruined it.
It's a sad thing when you don't look forward to going to work.
Oh yeah.
When you're feelings are
when
different
when
about
I
the
got
job.
when I got laid off,
Now, when was that?
uh, in November of no, in the fall of, well, it was really in August of 1970 is when I got all through, because then I had 62 years in, and I had to work a day or two in 2 days in August, so that I would make sure that I got my 60 years in. And I'm telling you, what you call this down there?
In personnel, you mean?
No, he was the head guy, the sales manager. And he says, Doug, he says,
Buxton?
Buxton. He says, Doug, he says, you have no idea what you're going to miss down here. Because he says, I can't do anything without answering that telephone. That telephone is my boss right now. Anything that I want to do, know, buy, sell, or anything else, or a point, I got to talk to somebody on the telephone. I says, Bill, that's a damn dirty shame. He says, that's the way it is.
So you really didn't mind when you retired. You were looking forward to it.
I wasn't, see, because he called me in the middle of the week and said, I want to see you a minute. And told me that I'm not doing anything, so why don't I come on in and we'll talk the job over. So I went into his office and he told me what I had in mind. So I told him what I had in mind. I didn't tell him I wanted to retire. I hadn't told him that.
Were you still doing the same thing of scheduling ads that
Oh,
you
sure.
had been doing?
Oh,
That responsibility hadn't changed.
No, nothing. All I got was more work. That's all I ever got. More work. You never got more help. You got more work.
Who was scheduling ads besides you?
What's his name? He quit too. He finally retired too. Well, anyway, I like Bill. Bill Buxton was a nice guy.
Pat Flanders? Is that the man you're trying to think of?
No, Pat Flanders never worked for me.
No, he lives over here.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Well, then they were beginning to start some type of reorganization.
Fletcher.
Oh, Dick Fletcher.
Dick Fletcher took my job. And, but you see, they did the same thing to him that they did to me and to others. They didn't put anybody in my place. They just moved Dick over and let him do the work. See?
Do 2 jobs.
Do 2 jobs, yeah. They're cheap bastards down there, so they just let him do 2 jobs. So that's the way they do it, you see. Nice people.
Was that sort of the proposal that Buxton had made to you when he called you in?
Bill wasn't know. This was long in March or April or May or somewhere along in there. And he told me, he says, I want to retire you because you've been on this job a long time and you can get retired and we'll take good care of you and so forth. And they did. So I said, okay. Well, then I came back to him and then I said, look, I want to be here 36 years. I mean, 46 years. And I said, I don't want to get fired or not hired since. So he said, okay. So we had about a half an hour of yakking back and forth, and he said, okay. He says, this is what I'll do for you, and then this is what you're going to do for me. And he told me just exactly what he'd pay me and how much and so forth, how much I was going to get, and I was going to get 2 salaries and all this kind of stuff. And he gave me the whole works. He was very nice to me. Very, very nice to me.
But you said you had 42 years.
42 years.
But you wanted to work 46 years.
No, 42.
Oh, 42 years. I see.
42. But if I'd have gone when he wanted me to go, I wouldn't have the 42 years in. I'd be about 3 or 4 months short. And I wanted to carry it over, so I got the 42 years in.
Sure.
I was a Scotchman, and I wanted to get 42 years in. And I didn't want to get cut out.
No, I don't blame you. And he could understand that too.
He understood it. He understood it. And he was very nice to me. Very, very nice. I don't know, what's he doing now, do you know?
Oh, he went with a corporation after he left Oldsmobile.
Yeah.
And then he retired from the corporation. He has retired.
He's retired from the corporation.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, he must be.
Mm-hmm. I think he's in Arizona. I believe he's in Arizona.
Playing golf.
Could be. A lot of the salespeople did, didn't they?
Yeah.
They enjoyed it. Do you remember Bill Escher?
Oh, sure.
Mm-hmm. Well, I expect to see him now January and February. Jim Walkinshaw, I don't think you know him. He was in mechanical engineering at Oldsmobile.
Yeah, I knew the name.
Oh, well, he and I formed this partnership. You'd asked me about how I got into the historical stuff. I started answering a lot of these inquiries on the history and the restoration. And the interest began to just accelerate. It's begun to just get all out of hand. So when Mr. Workman came in as Director of Public Relations, he began to realize the importance of trying to answer the queries, and because after all, that's one about the most...
It's a public relations job.
Yeah, it's the most inexpensive way I know to sell our cars.
Yeah.
And he and I
Very cheap.
talked about, when I was considering retirement, of setting up some type of system whereby this service could be continued.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then I was going to retire last January, or a year ago, and he wanted me to stay on and help with the 90th birthday celebration, and which I planned to do, except in May I fell down the cellar stairs and broke my left ankle, so I was out during the summer, but recovered and came in and retired at the end of August. But this program of the Oldsmobile History Center still hadn't gelled. Sales were down, and he was still trying to work with the factory to draw all of the files from 9 different locations physically into one area.
Did you get those files all of the buildings?
Durotherm,
Huh?
Building 40, Durotherm.
Oh, Christ, they were everywhere.
Building 40, I had a lot in my basement. Jim Walkinshaw had a lot in his. He had a lot stored in the plant. So, February of this year, we were able to draw everything together into 4000 North Grand River. That's out there in the GM building by the airport.
Mm-hmm.
It's an employee training center.
Yeah, I know where it is.
And that's where we've set up Oldsmobile's files. We've made a quick run through of all of them, and now we're going back and...
Did you find any money in there?
No, but we found a wealth of historical information that we didn't know we had because we never had time to really go through it. So we're setting up the files. The company's given us a computer, and we're handling the restoration and the history queries for writers and researchers and that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But this oral history program is a new thing. So Jim and I, starting in January, he's going to Florida, and he's going to interview people on the east side of Florida who are retired from Olds.
Mhm.
I'll go in February and I'll take the west side. So, but I expect to see Bill Escher down there.
Do you?
He's one of the ones.
I'll be darned.
Mhm.
I haven't seen Bill Escher.
Bert Green too, I
Yeah.
expect to see Bert Green.
Yeah.
That must be real interesting for you.
It is, Louis, it really is. Then too, like talking with you, Doug, we've gotten so much information on how the advertising program worked in the early days with the dealers, with the agency. There's no one else that I can think of who's retired who has your experience.
See, I want to tell you, Doc Shaw was the guy that ran the advertising for the Oldsmobile, and he ran it. No cuts, minuses, or nothing. Boy, it was his job, and he did a hell of a good job of doing it. And Doc Shaw was really a very, very smart man. His father was a doctor here in town, and maybe not much of a doctor, but he was. Turned out to be a baker, and in the end, he made so much money on it. And Doc Shaw really ruled the advertising for this plant down here, and he ran in the agency. Hell, they didn't know nothing when they come up. It was what Doc Shaw told them that they should do.
I see.
Oh God, and he was a smart man. I like Doc Shaw.
Did he retire?
Oh, he got kicked out.
Oh,
He loved his booze. He drank too much,
dear.
and he finally had one kidney taken out. And he was a sad, poor guy. Oh God, he's a brilliant man, just brilliant.
Well, Doug, then after Shaw came Carl Havens,
Kim Havens, yeah.
then Les Carlson,
Les Carlson,
then Lloyd Grove.
yeah.
Let's see.
Now Carlson was a smart guy.
Yes.
Carlson was very smart. You didn't pull any wool over Carlson's eyes. He knew what the hell was going on all the time.
Well,
I crossed him up one time. I don't know whether he really liked it or not, but I don't know, we were looking for some guy or something, and I knew that they were looking for this guy, or they were going to tell him something, or order him to do something or something. I didn't tell Carlson that I knew this. So Carlson was yakking around there and trying to find this guy and so forth. And I said, "You aren't looking for so-and-so, are you?" He says, "Yeah." He says, "How'd you know?" "Oh," I says, "I just knew that." I had to let him know that I didn't, that I knew something was going on around the place. So then they got a hold of the guy and they got the information that they wanted and so forth. Oh dear.
Well, Doug, you remember you used to call me, do you remember what nickname you used to call me? I do, I never forgot it. Beaver.
Beaver.
You always called me Beaver.
Yeah, and I told Carlson that. Yeah.
I thought, well, I think that's a real compliment. Well, I don't want to tire you.
What else you got to know?
I think maybe we've covered about everything, Doug. I really appreciate your inviting me into your home so we can do this. It certainly is going to be a welcome addition to Oldsmobile history. If you've got something else you'd like to share, why, we're willing to, we'd love to make a record of it.
Well, tell you the truth, Helen, I've always enjoyed working for Oldsmobile. I've had some bosses that were just no good. But I've had some bosses that have been awful good. And I take the good stuff and I take the bad stuff and I just weigh them out here and they weigh even. And I've enjoyed working for Oldsmobile for the 44 years or 42 years that I've worked out there, except for the 3 years I was in the Army, right in the middle of it. It was a good place to work. They didn't pay very good, but that's all right. I managed to save a little out of whatever they did pay me, and I've made money. I've enjoyed working down there. I've enjoyed a lot of people that worked down there. Some people I know were shitheels, and they were that simple, and that was what they were, but they didn't know it. So I didn't tell them, but they didn't know it. A couple of them have been fired since, so the poor guy that got himself in Dutch with. Well, he got himself in Dutch with the big boss down in Detroit. That's where he got fired. The big boss kicked him out.
That's too bad. Doug, you must have come in. You were in Building 60, weren't you?
I was in all the buildings that there were where the office.
But I mean,
I was out in the shop.
Yeah. But Building 60.
And then building.
No, that other building.
The other building that was torn down.
Right.
I was in that. I was
first administration building.
Yeah, and then when that was torn down, then I moved to the other one.
To Building 60.
Yeah. I was in 3 different offices.
And you were in Building 70 too. 70 also. The new administration building. Because we moved in there in 66 and you retired in 70.
70.
Now where was your office in Building 70?
Where was my office?
Yeah. On the 3rd floor?
No, it was on the 1st floor.
1st floor.
Yeah. All right. Now, here's it would be the north wing. And they go in the north wing, and you could go in, enter over here, and you could enter over here, and I'd go in, and then my office would be right down there, and there was windows all around there, and then there's where all the bosses were, all around there, and I was right over there.
Oh yes. You want me to turn it off?
No, well, I'll wait.
Sure, we can turn that off.
University of Michigan only for 1 or 2 years. I don't remember, but I think it was only 1 or 2 years.
Sometimes self-taught people do even better than so-called educated
Oh,
ones.
got it. Oh, yeah.
What
Oh.
was your comparison of G.R. Jones and David Ralston as far as sales skills and aids? How did they inspire the dealers in the zones to step up to it? I know they must have had different approaches.
Helen, 2 entirely different men. G.R. Jones was a guy that would blow your guts right out, right off the bat. And then he would come over and kiss you and just love you. And then he'd say, now go do a job. And anybody that had a touch like that, he could get anybody to work for him. He was just marvelous. I love G.R. Jones. The other guy was a very refined individual, very smart.
Mr. Ralston.
Mr. Ralston was very smart, and he knew a lot of stuff. He knew the automobile business. He knew cars. He knew people. He knew dealers. A very, very smart man. And he did a good job for Oldsmobile, and so did G.R. Jones.
You were there when Mr. Dobbs was there too.
Yep.
Carl Dobbs.
Dobbs was there.
Hmm? Now, how old? What kind of a man was Mr. Dobbs as far as his job was concerned?
Oh, I was never a Dobbs man. He did his job all right.
He was at that time
But-
administrative assistant to the sales manager.
He did his job, and that was it. Whatever he had to do, he did.
But no more.
No more.
Well, Pat O'Connor was a different type man.
Pat O'Connor's different entirely. Pat, you could pick up in your arms and just love it. He was such a nice guy.
He's a brilliant mind.
Brilliant mind. And you would just love the guy because for things that he would do and say and help you. If I wanted something, I could go to Pat and ask for it. I might not get it, but he'd give me what I could get. I had a lot of good friends down there. A lot of good friends.
Do you keep in touch with him now?
No.
Ron Gifford.
Ron
Roland
Gifford.
Gifford. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that about his wife. That's his
She's got Alzheimer's disease.
second wife, too.
Yeah.
I don't know about the first one. Is she still here in town?
She's here in town.
I'm going to shut this off because we try not to tape any that's